Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are peeling back the layers on one of history's most infamous characters, Emperor Caligula. Was he a raving lunatic, or was there a method to his madness? Let's dive in. You've probably heard the stories, right? These are the greatest hits of his reign, and they paint this picture of a ruler who wasn't just a tyrant, but who was completely, chaotically, off the rails insane. But what if that whole image is just wrong? What if all that supposed insanity was really just a political weapon, used by a man who saw the Roman system for the total fraud it had become? That's the idea we're going to explore. To really get who this guy was, you have to start at the beginning. We need to understand the absolutely brutal and terrifying childhood that made him. This wasn't some cushy, privileged upbringing. It was a masterclass in how to survive. I mean, he started out as Rome's golden child. Seriously. Born Gaius Caesar, he was the son of the incredibly popular general, Germanicus. He was the army's little mascot. They even gave him the nickname Caligula, which means little boots. He was literally the living symbol of Rome's imperial future. But then that golden childhood just completely shattered. His father died, and the circumstances were suspicious, to say the least. Suddenly, his family's popularity wasn't a blessing, it was a direct threat to the paranoid, reclusive Emperor Tiberius. All of a sudden, being a beloved heir was the most dangerous thing you could be in the entire world. And the cost was just immense. Young Gaius had to watch as Tiberius systematically took his family apart. His mother was exiled and left to starve. His two older brothers were thrown in prison and either starved or were forced into suicide. One by one, everyone he loved was just gone. As the last son standing, Gaius was summoned to the island of Capri. And who was he living with? The very man who had just destroyed his family. So he learned to survive by playing a role. He became the perfect, loyal, obedient servant. He buried his rage so deep that someone who knew him then made this chillingly spot-on prediction about his future. Okay, so with that horrifying backstory in mind, let's fast forward to his infamous reign. We're going to see how that past shaped him as emperor, and this is where the line between what's madness and what's a message gets really, really blurry. Let's start with the big one, the story everyone knows. He wanted to make his favorite horse, in civitas, a consul. You know, the highest political office in Rome. It's Exhibit A for his insanity. But was it really madness? Think about it. Modern historians suggest this was actually an incredible piece of political theater. By threatening to make his horse a consul, Caligula was basically shoving a mirror in the Senate's face. He was telling them, your power is an illusion. Your jobs are so pointless, so purely ceremonial, that even my horse could do them. It was a calculated, vicious, and deeply humiliating insult. And then you have the other totally bizarre story of him marching his legions all the way up to the coast, supposedly to declare war on the ocean itself. But again, the context here changes absolutely everything. The most likely story is that this was his response to a mutiny. His soldiers flat out refused his orders to invade Britain. They were terrified of crossing the Channel. So to mock their cowardice, he ordered them to do something childish, attack the waves and collect seashells as the spoils of war. It was another act of supreme humiliation, but this time it was aimed right at his own army. So these weren't just random acts of provocation. Caligula wasn't just acting erratically. He actually had a very clear, if totally radical vision for what a Roman emperor was supposed to be. See, all the emperors before him kept up this little charade that they were just the first citizen of a restored republic. Caligula, he just dropped the act entirely. He started modeling himself on the god-kings from the East, acting like a living deity whose power was absolute and wasn't bound by any human law or Senate tradition. And here's the real paradox. This guy, this supposed madman, also had a brilliant mind for engineering. He wasn't just sitting around thinking he was a god. He was commissioning huge, practical building projects, things like 2 of Rome's most important aqueducts, and something else that was truly mind-blowing. He built these 2 enormous floating palaces on Lake Nemi. The bigger of the 2 was 73 meters long. To give you some perspective, that's longer than a modern Airbus A380 jumbo jet. These things weren't boats, they were floating villas, built to show off just how advanced Roman technology was. And the tech on board was just astounding. When archaeologists finally recovered the ships in the 1900s, they found stuff that was way ahead of its time. Piston pumps, lead pipes for hot and cold running water, and even rotating platforms that worked on ball bearings. This was technology that basically disappeared and wasn't seen again for more than 1,000 years. So, how does a reign of shocking honesty, brutal insults, and brilliant engineering end? Well, pretty much how you'd expect. It ended in a whole lot of violence.
The big turning point seems to have been a really bad illness about 7 months after he became emperor. He went into it as this popular, reforming leader that everyone loved. He came out of it a paranoid, autocratic tyrant who started executing anyone he even suspected of plotting against him. The mask, if it was one, was officially off.
So after 4 incredibly volatile years, he had pretty much made an enemy of everyone that mattered. He was ambushed in an underground tunnel by his own Praetorian Guard. Yep, the very men whose job it was to protect him, and was stabbed to death. But here's the ultimate irony. His assassination didn't bring back the Republic like the Senate hoped. In fact, it just proved his point. The guards just went and found his uncle, Claudius, hiding behind a curtain, and proclaimed him the new emperor. Caligula had pulled back the curtain and exposed the truth. Rome wasn't a republic anymore. It was a raw monarchy, ruled by whoever had the swords. And all of this leaves us with one last really provocative thought. By just tearing down all the polite fictions of Roman politics, Caligula's reign forces us to ask a tough question about what happens when power goes completely unchecked. And that's a question that feels just as relevant today as it did 2,000 years ago.